Hello and welcome to another Kangaroo English Daily Digest podcast. My name is Christian and today is Friday, the best day of the week. and the reason that today is the best day of the week, just like all the other days, is because of all the love and support that I receive from all of my followers. And for example, this morning I received a postcard from Venice in Italy, from Eduardo in Georgia, just to say thank you for all of my efforts in teaching English. And it's all of the love and kindness that I receive from all of you that makes me feel like I have the best job in the world. And it makes me get out of bed every morning happy and ready to get in the office and record podcasts. Now, yesterday I talked about age of acquisition effects. So basically I showed that the words that you learn when you're young, so when you're a baby and when you're a child, those words are really important for your brain. Those words are really deeply embedded in your mind. They're very difficult to forget, and they have a very powerful effect on your memory. And I want to continue talking a little bit about this paper because it helps us to answer the question of why some people in some languages just appear to speak faster than others. So, I want to start actually with this deck of flashcards that I have. And these are flashcards for children, and they contain 100 words. They are the 100 most common words in English. And because of something called Zipf's law, these 100 words make up approximately 50% of all of the English that we use every single day, which is amazing, right? Now, I'm going to read a selection of some of these words, and I want you to tell me if you notice a pattern. Are you ready? See, off, is, went, came, as, want, like, to, on, that, down, he, with, etc., etc. Now, you may have noticed something about all of these really common words, and that is that they are all monosyllabic. They all have one syllable. B, 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 b. And the research about age of acquisition shows that all of the early words that we learn are these really phonetically simple words. For example, the early words they studied on average had 3 phonemes, so 3 kind of distinct sounds, whereas the later words had 6, so they would double the complexity. And this is really interesting because it tells us something about syllables and information and complexity and language. So let's now turn to the question of why exactly do some people appear to speak faster than others? So I know that when my mum and my sister, they come to visit me here in Spain, and they're watching television, they're watching the news, or they're watching people speak in the bars, they're like, man, the Spanish, they speak so quickly. It's like and let's just think about a bigger question. What exactly does it mean to speak quickly? Like, if I'm listening to a language that I've never heard before, how do I know if they're speaking quickly or not? What's my measure of speed? Well, think about the imitation that I just did, like this. What we measure as speed of speech is actually just syllables. Now, syllables don't have one kind of accepted definition among language kind of experts, but we all have this kind of intuitive feeling about what a syllable is. It's kind of like this rhythm, this kind of beat of the language, this and so when we say that somebody is speaking fast, what we're doing is we're observing actually the amount of syllables that they are producing per second. And that brings me to this really fascinating piece of research, which is called A Cross-Language Perspective on Speech Information Rate. And what it did was they measured the amount of syllables per second across 7 different languages. So they started by taking this story in English and translating this story into 7 different languages. So the story was this: last night I opened the front door to let the cat out. It was such a beautiful evening that I wandered down the garden for a breath of fresh air. Then I heard a click as the door closed behind me. I realized I'd locked myself out. To cap it all, I was arrested while I was trying to force the door open. And then they translated it into French. Hier soir, je veux le porte d'entrée. Okay, that's terrible French. Italian. Ieri sera ho aperto la porta per far uscire il gatto. Also into Japanese. I cannot do any Japanese. German. Letzte Nacht habe ich die Haus dort. Mandarin Chinese. Again, can't read Mandarin. And finally, Spanish. Anoche abrí la puerta del jardín para sacar al gato. And what they discovered was that these different languages have different syllable rates. So, for example, English produces 6.19 syllables per second. French, 7.18. German, 5.97. Italian, 6.99. Japanese, 7.84. Mandarin, 5.18. Spanish, 7.82. And Vietnamese, 5.22. And so if you look at English producing 6.19 syllables per second and Spanish producing 7.82, it explains why my family think that Spanish people are speaking quicker, because they're literally producing more syllables. But there's a couple of other things that are important. So one is that although there is variation, it's not really a huge variation. It's not like 2 and 10 or 2 and 20. It's all about kind of 6, more or less, right? But what we're really interested in is when people are speaking faster, what about the content of what they're saying? Can they actually produce more information in a shorter or longer period of time? And that's what we can call the information rate. Now, in this paper, they used quite a complicated formula to produce information rate. But basically what they did was they measured how much information from the story is contained in each syllable. And this is where things get really interesting. So they used Vietnamese as a baseline. So Vietnamese is an information rate of 1. And then they looked at all the other languages. So French has an information rate of 0.99, German 0.90, Italian 0.96, Mandarin 0.94, Spanish 0.98, and English 1.08. And so, again, although we have some variation, it's kind of more or less about 1. So even though it might appear that people are speaking faster, the amount of information they are producing is pretty much the same across all languages, except for Japanese. Japanese is down here at 0.74, which is dramatically different from all of the other languages studied. And the reason is probably because of the way that Japanese encodes sound. Syllables are probably not a great measure of the speed at which they're speaking. So Japanese is kind of like the odd one out here. But apart from this, all of the other languages, which again, they're not from the same language family. We're talking about, French versus Mandarin, or, English versus Vietnamese. So different language families, same information rate. So what it means for you as a learner of English, it means that even though it might appear to you that I'm speaking faster, I'm producing the same amount of information as you. And what it shows is that with practice, with exposure to the language, once you start to understand what's contained in those syllables, there's no extra processing necessary. That Spanish people speaking faster really is just a myth. It's just a facade, really. And it means that even though when you start out, English seems impossible to follow, give it a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, and soon you'll realize that there's nothing special happening in English at all. I hope you found today's Daily Digest interesting. If you want to support this podcast, you will find a link to my Patreon page on my website at kangarooenglish.com. I'm Christian. This is Kangaroo English, and I'll see you in class.